Good morning, family, friends, Facebook family and friends, Northwoods family and friends. Uh, Good to see you again this morning. Again, I'm hopping on here to do a quick devotion in the dark right before I go to work. And I was studying last night again in the book of Psalms, but I kind of got on a little rabbit trail and ended up in the book of Luke chapter 6, which is what I want to share with you this morning. Luke chapter 6. Verse 6 through 11. It's a very common text. It's also recorded in the book of Matthew and in Mark, the same story. But I want to share with you from the book of Luke chapter 6, verse 6 through 11. It says, "On another Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. And the scribes and the Pharisees watched him to see whether he would heal on the Sabbath, so that they might find a reason to accuse him. But he knew their thoughts, and he said to the man with the withered hand, 'Come and stand here.' And he rose and he stood there. And Jesus said to them, 'I ask you, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to destroy it?' And after looking around at them all, he said to him, 'Stretch out your hand.' And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they were filled with fury and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus." As I was reading over this last night and studying it, I just feel like the Lord was kind of showing me there's 2 points in this story that really, really stand out to me. Number one was, he said, "Come and stand here." The man had a withered hand, and Jesus gave him instruction on where to stand. But just in his obedience of standing where he was called to stand, there was also some other things that had to come into place, and that was the stretching out of his hand. A withered hand is one that is drawn up. So having the command to stretch it is something that would not be in his common ability to do. And I think about everyday life. How many times do you feel stretched thin? Do you feel stretched out? Do you feel stretched so far that the slightest little breeze is going to tear your life apart? I don't know about you, but I know that happens, especially having children, having jobs, pastoring a church. Or whatever you may be doing. You may not be doing those. You may not have kids. You may not be pastoring a church, but every one of us still have our problems. Some of us, our abilities to stretch aren't as strong as others. Some are more flexible than others. So regardless of what you're going through, whether you feel like you don't have as much on your plate as other people, it does not mean that your stretching is any less painful than the next person stretching. But what I feel like the Lord is leading us into a season, the church is in a season of, our nation is in a season of, is God is stretching his people. God is telling us to stand where he has told us to stand. And that is on the word of God, in the truth. This is not a time that we are to try to redefine the scriptures. This is not a time that we are trying to redefine what sin is. But this is a time that God says, "Come and stand here." Stand on the word of God. Stand on the promises of God. Stand on what God has said to be the truth, and there's no other truth other than that what God has spoken. And when we come to that obedience and we stand where God has told us to stand, things may not happen immediately. Things may not happen and change in a sudden instant, because sometimes God says, "Now I'm gonna tell you to do something that is out of your common capabilities." The things in your life that have been withered, your relationships, your ministry, your friendships. I mean, things like that are going on around you that may feel like they're withered up. They're drawing up, and you have no control over it. Jesus is saying, look, because of your obedience and because you are looking to me, my command to you is to stretch. Don't be afraid to be stretched. Don't be afraid to be pulled. Don't be afraid to be tugged at a little bit. Because in that stretching, it's going to take you outside of your boundaries, and it's going to place you into the hands of God, who has no boundaries. His boundaries go as far as the east is from the west. He can do anything above our understanding. And God is able to stretch you to the point to where that you're not going to tear, and you're not going to fold, and you're not going to break. But God is able to stretch you to where when it's all said and done, you're going to be able to move your hand. You're going to be able to raise your hand and lift your voice in praise and in worship. So stretching out that hand, stretching out that issue, stretching out that ministry, stretching you out to the point to where you know, you would think that you would never make it, you'd fall apart. God is going to show you that there is greater in you than he that is in this world. So keep your eyes focused on Jesus. Stand where he's told you to stand. Stretch out your hand and get ready for the blessings of God. I love you this morning. Pray blessings on you today. Hope to see you again tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful day. God bless.